Hundreds of people are entering Lagos on a daily basis with the intention of making Lagos State a place of abode. Since shelter is the third basic need of human being after food and clothing, the pressure on land for the construction purpose is very high in the state. This is why people would acquire land without carrying out the due diligence as regards the status of the land. This apparently breeds haphazard development and encourages urban slums, which defaces the facade of the state and affects the aesthetic value of the state as well. The administration of Mr. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu is doing its utmost best to ensure proper development which complies with planning standards and regulation. But it is disheartening that illegal developers still carry out their nefarious activities without minding the after effects of their actions on the environment. Activities of these people do not only affect the aesthetic values of the state, but also create an environmental hazard such as flooding, slum development, and existence of urban miscreants. All stakeholders here today are advised to ensure the following before embarking on projects. All property developers, as well as individuals, must first of all verify that the land is duly registered. I'm sure you've been told this throughout yesterday. The land must be duly registered at the Lands Bureau. Go to the Lands Bureau, make your inquiries, go to the office of the Surveyor General, make your inquiries. You are about to invest millions of naira, so you don't want to take chances. Therefore, you must follow the proper channel when applying for building approvals and permits. This typically involves submission of detailed plans and documents to the appropriate regulatory agencies, especially the Ministry of Physical Planning and Urban Development. You must not only obtain a planning approval, it's not enough, you must adhere to the approval, what has been approved. So you don't just say I have an approval and then you go and do something else. They approve 4 floors, you do 5 floors and say you have an approval. You don't have an approval, you've negated that approval is now null and void because you've not followed it. Planning information as to the use applicable to any part of the state should be obtained from the Ministry of Physical Planning and Urban Development as well. This will assist developers in taking the right decisions and ensure conformity with the provisions of the land use plan of the state. It is also advisable, like I said again, you must make sure that there is proper title to that land. All stakeholders on land must familiarize themselves with the zoning regulations in the state to ensure that the land use is in accordance with the state's master plan. It needs to be noted that zoning helps allocate land for different purposes, such as residential, commercial, industrial, institutional, recreational, agricultural, etc. The environmental impact of land use decisions must be considered by all stakeholders. We must ensure that the development adheres to environmental standards, especially to areas prone to flooding and other environmental challenges. We must desist from illegal construction works on drainage channels and alignments. This is disastrous and affects not only the immediate environment, but the state at large. The negative effects of this always affect lives and properties, and its damaging effects put so much pressure on economic activities of the state. The Ministry of Environment is doing a great job right now in demolishing properties that have been set back. Developers go, they cover drainage channels, they fill it up, and sell it to unsuspecting clients and members of the public. They are the ones that bear the brunt of it because the developer has done his legal development and he has sold it to an unsuspecting person and he has gone away with the cash. So I think Nigeria may come in here. I'm thinking, should we mandate developers to register with Transferra? Because we have a situation right now where maybe, let's say, you build in an estate and you buy, you give the money to the developer and he goes. The Minister of Environment comes and says, you've built on the road drainage channel. We should go after the developer as well, so that we can make restitution to the owner of the land that has parted with his hard-earned money. So we need to make developers accountable. It's not enough for them to sell and disappear. So we must be able to trace them, we must be able to locate them. Because it is unfair that we don't go after the developer. The applicant that bought is an innocent, could be an innocent purchaser for value without notice. So the developer should go after him and make him accountable. So
introduced already. We have the head of service, we have the chapter president, we have the Surveyor General's office. So what I think I will start with, we already have from the head of service what I will call an opening statement. So I'd like to give opportunity to the other two members of the panel to set a frame similar to what the head of service has done. Just set a frame from your point of view. You know, the topic that we're dealing with, adhering to planning approvals. Let me just get it exactly right. Adhering to building approvals, permits, and land use planning. So from your point of view, you each have a microphone there. Just check that it's operating. Give us an opening statement, and then we will probe a little bit further. And after we do that, we'll give opportunity to members of the audience to ask one or two questions. So let me have an opening statement first from the Assistant Surveyor General. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I'm glad to be here. I also stand on the already established protocol. Survey plays a crucial and multifaceted role in the building, approval, permits, and land use planning. And it is important for us to establish that Lagos State has a land mass of 360 square kilometers, actually 3,600 square kilometers, including Eko, Atlantic City, and a population of over 200 million, actually 20 million individuals living in the state. Also, Lagos State has a coastal line. Of course, I'm a surveyor, I just want to speak to what the state is all about. The coastal line of about 180 is 180 kilometers. And for me, the responsibility of the surveyor, this topic is one, boundary delineation, and which I feel is very important. And delineation of boundary for is crucial, such that whatever position a parcel or a land is represented, the surveyor accurately delineates it and represents it, which can be used for the planning process and then approval. And also infrastructural development. When we talk about estates, we are not only talking about the past, we are also talking about the roads, the planning, the design, and the construction. We also play a crucial role in this. Then thirdly, in the urban planning, urban planning and development, we also play a crucial role. So let me just be this am I opening?
I believe that anything that is too important and of necessity to man requires proper regulation. Land and shelter being one of the major needs of man after food and clothing requires this major regimentation, especially when you consider the fact that we don't develop uniform. The developments are never uniform. Any development depends on the area you are developing, the nature of the soil, and then town planning. If there is no proper guidance of both the developer and even the end user of the product, there will always be clashes. So this is the reason why there's a great challenge for humans to cut corners. And that's why there is no law apart from regulating land use. There's a great challenge for human beings to cut corners for selfish reasons, and that is the reason why you must be given a permit. There are town planning rules to be obeyed. There must be urban land use laws that we must obey. And so the reason for this, the importance of these laws and the importance of enforcing them are what we have come to reel out on this occasion today. Thank you.
To the highlights from the head of service, because that really gives us a very good framework. When he was talking, I tried to note some of the content, that we need to ensure when secure planning permits adhere to their approval, obtain information as to the use, the land use plan, zoning regulate the user, and you have to be considering things like the environmental impact. Now that's very, very useful so that people who are in the hall can take that under advisement. But I want to ask the head of service a question. There's a school of thought that the level of bureaucracy involved in this process is too much. The process of securing approval is not only costly, but also time-consuming. I think the main thing is the time-consuming. So, for developers who need a quick turnaround, is Lagos State trying to reduce the bureaucracy? And if so, how? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, the bureaucracy, I'll speak to that first. So, the bureaucracy in the civil service is about checks and balances. In our climate, we need to, especially in the property and built environment, we need to ensure that fraud is not perpetrated. So that's where the bureaucracy comes in. We put in checks and balances, we require certain documentation that in other climes they would not require such information. We have seen cases, several, where imposters will sell your land behind your back, where they will use your property to secure mortgages without you knowing. So the bureaucracy put in place is there to prevent fraudulent activities, really. But in some cases, it transpires to mean that the process is longer. But we need to ensure that people don't sell the land behind the back, people don't pretend to be you. So we require a lot of information that in other countries that do not require such information because of the peculiarities of our environment. But we've taken the heat and we hear that people complain a lot that the bureaucracy is affecting transactions, which I rightly agree with, because time is money, and especially property transactions, the
they go very quickly, and if you're too slow, it goes to the next person. So what are we doing? We decided to digitize and to computerize the entire process. And now this process is a fantastic process, but you just need to give us some time. We're almost there. It's going to make life so much more easier for you. By the end of the process, you will not need to come to allow yourself to obtain the title documents. You will sit in the comfort of your home or your office, anywhere you go. You sign into the app, upload your documents, we pick it up at the back end, and we process it seamlessly. So you don't have to, you even make your payment on the app, make your payment on the social media. It's not human interaction if you choose not to, except for when you're coming to collect your title documents. A lot of work has gone into it. It's not just a scanning project. It's not just a digitization project. It's a project where we are confirming and authorizing the authenticity of the document. We're creating a chain of transactions. You know, the real estate developers here, and lawyers, we know that in that transaction there must be an unbroken chain of transactions from Mr. A to B to C to D to E to F. That is what we're ensuring in Lagos State government, that every title that is registered in the Lands Bureau has an unbroken chain, so that at the click of a button, you will see the history of all the transactions that have taken place on the land from 2019 to as far back as we can go. So we're creating not only a digitized process, but we're creating a process whereby the documents in the Lands Bureau is authentic and it creates the value chain and you see the chain. So you're going to enjoy this, but before you can fry an egg, you need to break the egg. Exactly. If you are doing the road, before you can enjoy the smooth traffic, you first encounter traffic because we're fixing the road. So just bear with us. We see the light at the end of the tunnel, we should soon be there. The same thing for physical planning. They are also doing electronic planning approval. So by next year, we will be enjoying the free flow of traffic.
So I would like to rest on that and establish a protocol. Very quickly, I would say the ministry we are very happy to be here today because the core content of this discourse centers around the history of physical planning and urban development. Straight on is to assure our stakeholders that a few days ago I was in the panel of the Federal House of Representatives, and we were talking about the planning. And I said, in Lagos State here, we are condemned to just do the right thing. And that is what we've been working on. I quite appreciate our stakeholders in terms of expectation. And I came in and the HOL was talking about timing for approval. But generally, what we do is if a child is born today, he will be given a name, depending on the culture. Sometimes 7 days, sometimes 3 months. Whatever be the case, the child will be given a name. So, by extension, request for approval permit is like us naming the house. It's like us registering the car. Every car that is new on the road, even if it is Tokunbo, has to be given a bath by way of registration. So the same thing goes for our building, that for any building to come on stream, it has to go through the process of building permits. And that's basically what we do, which is to ensure that the building that is being given back to is born in line with the governmental rules guiding that particular area. And of recent, there have been cries from stakeholders regarding time duration for building permits to be had. But basically, if you trace it down, that problem cannot be made entirely to the ministry. Some developers now, even before they go into buying that land, they do what we call planning information. I want to believe if we engage in that, it puts us in a position to have a holistic view of the challenges and requirements of that particular development within that particular area. But quite often and what we find is that people have already gone in and at the point of submission, the obstacles will start to show faces to us. But if we try and do the right thing, I don't think there is any. Right now, we have in the ministry a 10-day duration for buildings to be approved. That is on condition that all that is required are actually presented. Before now, you have cases where the buildings are above 2 floors. We normally request for soil tests. But experience has shown that most of those soil tests are what can be done as doctored soil tests. So before such approvals are granted, a lot of investigation on our part will have to be done to ensure that, okay, the building that is coming up there is coming up on a very reliable substructure. So that again might take time, but these are things that we face. And examples are found everywhere in Lagos. Go to Ifakoye, you see so many buildings, Sister or City, Saturday in there. And we do have soil tests, but quite frankly, they are all local soil tests. So we have to check all these things. And very soon we are going to roll out some programs, which is called CAP. It's a way of certifying some professionals, competent professionals, to assist us in the process of the planning part. Because what goes on at the planning panel stage, drawings are submitted. These drawings need to be perused to the required level. All the calculations, all those assumptions that you put there, they need to be checked whether they are actually valid. And this takes time. It takes time for us to do thorough work on that. Because once the building is certified and approved, we take percentage. So we don't want a situation whereby approval are granted and start having problems. So this problem, like I said, has been identified and on a daily basis, programs are being planned to ease all these problems. By the time we roll that program out, the pilot scheme will probably start in a couple of weeks, and then starting from Ikeja district, whereby we have certified professionals that will assist us in the process of vetting the drawing. Because the stage, the process that building submission goes through, I don't want to say too much, but it's a bit tedious. There are things that you have to take very seriously. It starts from the validation of the title document, and our environment, how people want to juggle with title documents, and then we even have company COC, where you have a disagreement among the parties. So all these things need to be sorted out before you move to the issue of planning. The building you want to get approval for, is it such that it's located within the approved land use for that particular purpose? So having gone through that, move to architecture, that all the spaces are they well defined, the air spaces, the ventilation and circulation flow, are they well defined? Then it goes to structures, where you check all the calculation, the sizing of the members, are they adequate? The reinforcement, are they adequate? The foundation is this sort that can be reliable. Then they move to the electrical and mechanical. So it's quite a cumbersome process that they have to go through before eventually be certified as due for planning permit. But we appreciate that as business, time is of essence. And like I said, on a daily basis, we are also reviewing our processes to ensure that are not unnecessary delay. But I can assure you that if I know there is any delay for you, and the fence are manned by security personnel. So there is a challenge of personnel having access into those sites. That was not until recently when the department was now fully reinforced. Talking of labs now, because here now we have 80 armed mobile policemen that are with us 24/7. We build houses that they are building. We are responsible for them day to day. And when we go out for enforcement, we go out full force until that. What we have is that estates are blocked and access of our personnel are restricted. And that enables them to go ahead and do whatever they like. And what you have them doing is that you might have an estate of, let's say, 12 units approved. Along the line, in that you have some areas maybe for green or fountain or things like that. And sharp practices, they would quickly add one or two. Now we go there and mark, if at all we have access. That's the first stage. Expecting them to come and defend themselves, but they don't come. Again, quite frankly, we cannot rule out sharp practices also from our staff. We cannot rule it out. One thing is you go to a place, you serve them by calling them to order that I have seen as an officer of this ministry responsible for this area, I have seen something that is out of order. That's the first visit. Now they go back there again and serve them with the expectation that they come and defend themselves. If that is not done, then the next step, which is enforcement, going there. But by and large, the responsibility still lies with the developer to try and do the right thing. Most of these development are having are such that they are deliberately done. It's not a matter of they are deliberately done. And like I said, before the fully enforcement of that unit, it was a bit of a challenge because you go one officer, maybe 2 or 3 policemen, and you get to an estate, you have 2 or 3 policemen, so arguments happen. Very, very okay. But now we have full force. Once they are mad, we give them time to come back and do, and if it's not done by way of defending, go all out and do the needful. When I say needful, it doesn't necessarily mean demolition is the last resort of it. The last resort. Because my appeal is to the developer is that on our own part, let us try and do the right thing. You are given an approval for a 4-5 months, for example, and maybe you are foundation or first floor, and you finish selling, and people are buying, I mean, people keep coming, offering more money. The temptation is there that you want to add additional floor. So, if we come into that kind of thing, it's not become an issue. You have 4 floors or 5 floors happening, additional 1 floor is added. Are you saying that you bring your own building now? Okay, we have to now do LTT to certify that, okay, what is existing can start to get suspended. But the bottom line is that the responsibility is still on the part of the developer to do the right thing. And what we have in Lagos now is zero tolerance. You just must keep to what is approved. If you've done your assessment before you go in, you know the number of units you have to put in. So there shouldn't be any form of temptation to either add additional floor or add additional block or things like that, because henceforth now in Lagos State is not a partner, and we will go very heavily on that.
Thank you very much. You might propose.
Thank you very much.
One thing I would want, first of all, the government to do is to be more serious with enforcement of the rules, regulations they themselves have made. It's very easy to make these regulations. Every day we hear them on paper, we hear them in the news. But when you still go around and observe what is happening, you'll be wondering why rules. I don't know whether there is any particular rule guiding the environmental impact of some constructions, because there are these instances where you already have your house existing and somebody is building and then drilling a foundation by the side. And you look up one morning and see that all the walls of your existing building are all broken down. In several places I've seen this happen. I've never seen any sanctions against the people causing this kind of damage to people's properties. Then I also see that apart from drilling for foundations, drilling on boreholes are not even well regulated. People build wherever however they want it. Are these boreholes also not causing damages? Yes, we don't have water, the public needs water, but at the same time, we shouldn't also inflict damage on ourselves. Yeah, I've seen where boreholes built near walls, the walls collapsed and then destroyed the vehicles that were just smoking or destroyed. So, these things are what I expect the government to also look into. On the part of the developers, I believe that if you just give somebody who is criminally minded, even 1 inch, it takes 1 mile. So long as the enforcement is not strong enough, the developer will always be moving towards committing more crimes. And so, when you mark the buildings, I've seen them happening in many places, and then you go there, they say, oh, we have just suspended construction. After about 1 week, 2 weeks, you see the construction going on again. So, I think the onus lies on the government more than on even the developer, because the mind of man, as they say, is always just made up to do evil. And that's why we have the government that acts like a father, a tutor, a disciplinarian. This is just what I think, because if you expect more of these controls to come from the private sector, the developer himself, he will not do it. He wants more money. So it's good for the person who has made this law. That's the reason for the laws, because there is indiscipline, and that's the reason for the laws. The person who has made these laws need to checkmate these excesses. So and then again, finally, I will want immediately an update of the building codes. I know that yes, Lagos State has tried its best. I've seen the new master plan of Lagos State. I've even bought some of it from the physical planning office. Yes. Regulating constructions in different zones, stating what and what height you need to the kind of setbacks you need to give for. Beautiful. That's a good one. Let these updates also come in different other areas. It will help to guide and then the most important enforcing.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And the Honorable Commissioner alluded to it. So I want to ask, I think in your interview the other day you said there are some bad elements. So we don't want to look and say, oh, it's only from this side. We also have to address the other side of the coin, the co-conspirators who are giving the real estate industry a bad name. I'm sure if you take a census here, everybody here wants to have proper regulation. Everybody. My colleague here has said what we want is enforcement. What we want is Lagos, the mega city that we want it to be. So I'm going to put it to the HOS that how are you dealing with these co-conspirators? How are we going to root them out so that, you know, we don't have developers having their way, and the great majority of people get the regulation that they want to give us. And then then we can make a comment, and then we will put it out to for one or two questions, because I'm being told we're out of time. So just HOS.
Thank you. So we're not going to shy away and say that we don't have an enemy within. We definitely have an enemy within, because you can't really clap for government. So those that are perpetrating from outside sometimes have assistance on the inside, right? So, but if you don't make us aware of who those people are, there's not a lot we can do. Because, our culture, you say, I don't want to be the one that will affect his career. So if you don't tell us who they are, there's nothing we can do about it. So you need to report them to us. We have processes in place. They are issued queries, they are issued disciplinary PMEs. But if you don't assist us and let us know who these people are, how do we take action against them? So we need you to help us, for us to help you in that regard. Because we know we do have enemies within. And this administration does not tolerate such. So you need to help us for us to help you in that regard, because we have processes in place that deals with this kind of situations. SA. So we have a situation where developers sell to individuals and they go. Do we have a database, or should we, have a register of developers? Right, so that as part of the building planning application approval, they submit a clearance from LASURA, so that we have, it's for estate developers, so not just for somebody that wants to develop one plot. It's for estate developers that are developing, selling land en masse, or selling properties en masse. Because I'm looking at the exercise that we're doing now. Do we have a database of these developers, so that where issues happen within an estate, we can trace the developer, we can go back to him and say, you caused this, you have to make restitution for this. If you don't have that in place, I think it's not in place. So, as part of God's chosen, rather than say you want to go after individuals, no. The damage is being done by massive estate developers. So we need to have a database of them. We can trace them, get all their CSCs, because they can disappear. It's a company.
Yes.
The company can just disappear. Like a human being, you can hold a human being and say. So we need to look into that and make sure it happens as part of the documentary requirement. Thank you.
Yesterday, we have a comment from the table that somebody registered, have all the documentation in place, government process, CFO, and at the end of the day, his house has been marked. Right. So, from the Ministry of Environment. So, my question is that,
can you take your shot and
this Ministry of Environment be part of the checklist before you get building approval?
Just take your shot and move.
That should be part of the clearance before you get to the point of your building approval.
Thank you very much. MC. Okay, ladies.
Good morning. My name is Chinwende Peledo. I have a question for the gentleman there. He said something about doctors tests that most of these developers, when they do their tests, they get the doctor's soil test. And I was asking myself, I said, these tests can they be done with the government and be sure that these tests are real? Again, I have another question. He said something about sharp practices for the government workers. These people that do these sharp practices, what will be done to them if they are being reported? and he said we should report them. I was at last year conference, and there was a developer that was reported here, and the government told us that we should come to the office and it will be rectified. Till now, we've not had anything, and I don't know what's going on.
Thank you.
All right, like what we did yesterday, I'm going to try and create 3 questions, and I will direct the questions to each one of you in your panel. We have 2 minutes, and then I will come back to each one of you to give your counsel on the way forward. Is that agreed with us? All right. So let me start with my biggest first. When you talk about rights of the consumers, I never assume that we understand our rights. Because if we understand the rights, we'll understand the duty and the privileges that comes with the right. So before you can even ask for your right, you have to be duty bound first. You must be obeying the law, and then when your rights are contravened, you can speak out. I want to believe that's the way the law is. But I'd like you to treat in one light. What are those rights of the consumers? And they are used to what they are victims. It's also nice to explain in the context of what we're talking about, who is a victim. You can, because I also know that if there are rules and things you are contravening, you still consider that person a victim. So show light on that for us now.
Someone that has contravened the rule or law, you are not the victim. As the person who has suffered as a result of that contravention, who is the victim. My department in the Lagos State Ministry of Justice is called the Citizens Mediation Center. It's an alternative dispute resolution center for what people will normally do, which is go to court, which is called litigation. Because as we know, developers tend to take properties from indigents, from widows, from people who are already suffering as a result of economic situations. And so, rather than going to litigation, they come to us at the Citizens Mediation Center.
Right, so litigation.
By the Lagos State government, by what we call a Citizens Mediation Law in 2007, to provide an alternative dispute resolution mechanism which residents of Lagos State can use to resolve their cases instead of litigation.
All right. And it's much faster?
Yes. Our main objective is free. It's not cumbersome.
Hold on, let's take one by one. It is free.
It is free.
Yeah.
It is confidential.
It is confidential.
It is fast.
It is fast.
You do not pay a penny
So you
bring
have
your
to
matter to Lagos State.
When you become a victim, it's important to understand that the people who are the victims are the people who are the consequence of the contravention of the...
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
I believe we are all stakeholders, but for the purpose of this program, the stakeholder will fall back onto us on this side. And first and foremost, I'd like to narrow it down to what I do within our own board / agency. We have a mortgage and property law as amended in 2015, which tactically says that we have to create a conducive environment to all Lagos residents who want to come onto the program that the Lagos State Mortgage Board was established for, which is to reduce the housing deficit through an instrumental payment system called the Rent to Own program. Now, exactly that's what it is. So for you not to fall victim, there are certain things that have been put in place. Now, for example, we have the pre-qualification process, which is you getting the units or the allocation. Now, at the pre-qualification process, we don't want you to be a victim of default. So what we do, there is a debt to income ratio category, which is a 33.1% of your monthly earnings. Once you go over that, we don't qualify you. And the only reason is we don't want you to be a victim of default. So that starts immediately from the pre-qualification process. There is this other part where after you have been successful, we now have a counseling session. That counseling session gives you the do's and don'ts, and that's before you sign the agreement. This is trying to protect the consumer, that is the Lagos resident, I believe. So all these processes are to protect the consumer. So we have that counseling session which tells you about the do's and don'ts, your timely repayments, when it is due, facilities management payments, what we do not expect you to do whilst you're within the particular time of repayment.
Things are being put out there for consumers to take, which are very dangerous and hazardous to your health. But here we're talking about the right of consumers as regards real estate. So do not suffer in silence. Whoever that is involved, report to LASCOPA, and we'll ensure that you get value for your money and satisfaction.
Thank you very much.
It's an awesome privilege to be here. I'll stand on all the existing protocol, and I'm very, very delighted to be here. I think the first part of it I wanted to discuss, I'm sure most of the panelists will have insights to share as well, is from the perspective of even making sure that we are able to avoid disaster in the first place. I think if you take time to look into disasters that happened, we had a couple of collapses last year, 2 years in the States, we can actually see what some of the causes of these were. What technology does is that it helps you build structures to making sure that the processes for example, construction that we're talking about are followed. So for example, today we have multiple businesses in the value chain that are focusing on using technology to affect their space. One of which is construction. What is construction? Construction makes sure that the fear of substandard buildings can be averted by the use of technology, and that's where protect is. Right? So every problem that we encounter today has a solution. The question is typically who is the force, who is regulating, who is making sure the right things are done. And what we're saying is that technology can be put in place to make sure the right things are done. I hope that helps us.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Trudeau Sebu. Again, very happy to be here and standing along existing protocols. I run a company called Venco. We build operating systems for communities like estates, apartment blocks, and other places where groups of people live together. So we are more on the operational end of the spectrum of the PropTech value chain. We are kind of like an information management system for these communities. So one of the core of the codes or the pillars of what we built is at least a directory system for residents, or property owners in estates or in these communities. And what that information does is that it enables us to be very useful pre-disaster, during disasters, and after disasters when we are now looking at recovery. So let's say, what is a recent disaster that has happened? COVID was a major one. And platforms like ours were very instrumental in helping to manage, COVID when it came about, because they were used as platforms for dissemination of information, for how to deal with these events, and for how to prepare for, circumstances that are unplanned. Even for more sudden types of disasters, having the type of information that we have in terms of, who lives in what community, how many occupants are there, and so on and so forth, can be very instrumental in making sure that the help is, it can be delivered at the point of need should solid disasters happen. Because then you have a manifest of, residents in these communities. On an individual level, we can even use it for, immediate emergencies. So, for example, we partnered with a company called Ace Medical, that is essentially the 911 for Africa, where residents in the communities that use Benko and similar solutions to ours can raise emergencies and basically get help delivered to them based on their location and other bits of information. So also during emergencies, just having the information of who lives in a particular place helps you to know who to do rescue efforts for, and who is unaccounted for during the course of an emergency. There's also a unique situation where pre and post-emergency or disaster, platforms like ours can also be very useful, which is insurance. So because more and more real estate is delivered in communal formats, you have a very strong platform using community management platforms to do shared insurance where the group, the estate, the apartment block can, as part of their monthly contributions or service charges, have a component of it that is, allocated to a group insurance policy, such that should there be a disaster, part of the recovery can be that this policy protects, or at least it helps to, initiate or contribute towards the recovery. It could be the rebuilding of property, it could be the replacement of major capex equipment that has gotten damaged, it could be life insurance and things like that. So I would say that this is how, at least as our end of the spectrum of PropTech, we are able to help to manage this.